See the spider web and how it slants. They make them from the roof line to the fence all down this line, and you can walk without going through a spider web. So when I asked the husband to string the beans up back here, he made a comment about to what? And I said, well, why not like a spider web? Do you see my bean web? Isn't that cool? So, there's a spider there too. Can you see him? Yeah, you can see him hanging. So I'm not going any closer because I don't want to disturb his web today. You see my beans? And there's a volunteer squash plant or two growing in there. There's one right there. There, that's a squash plant. They're volunteers. So, that's my beans. When you grow plants from commercial seed packets, they'll say days to harvest. What you actually have to pay attention to is days to germination, days to transplant, and then days to harvest. So something that says it has a 45-day to harvest time frame may actually take 90 days. Anyway, those beans are out of a 10-year-old bottle of mixed bean soup, and I planted them pretty much just to put some nitrogen into the soil. That corn is not thriving. This is the pumpkin that's taking over. These are my squashes. You're not supposed to plant hard shells next to hard shells because they can cross-pollinate. But in all honesty, well, first of all, these were planted in the spring and these were planted for the fall. We didn't expect these to grow. There's one right there. Those are beans and radishes. A lot of people, when summertime hit, when the things start to turn red here and there, a lot of people quit. They let the garden coast until everything dies off. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, starting to make secondary branches in an IKEA bag. Lettuce that's spent. Need to redo those pots. Bunch of kales, the Swiss chard. The Three Sisters garden that is not thriving as much as I wanted it to. Something's eating the heck out of that bean there. And these beans here, they do have flower buds. So they, see like right there, there's flower buds. But there's no way that corn's going to produce in time. I don't even think the pumpkin-y squashies will produce in time. But it's fun. We'll see. The fennel. This is the anise, the darker one. It's in bloom now. There's a bee on it. Hold on. There's a bee. See the bee butt? See the bee butt? Yeah, I could do bees all day long. I really could. That's the grapes. Like I said, we're going to do a batch of Dolmas. These are the fennels. They fell over. Next year they'll get supports. This is the one squash that's really big. That's my biggest squash so far. Everything that was harvested in the last month has a days to harvest from germination, from transplant, days to harvest within reason of our first frost. And I saw somebody on Facebook yesterday make a comment that their garden's to the point, green bottlefly, it flew, that their garden's to the point of coasting, and it's like, not in the zone you're in. You should be planting your next line. You should be planting your cabbages for fall. Apple from the apple tree. The zucchinis. These are our fava beans. We have a whole bunch growing in the front yard too. Spearmint. This is yet another potato planted in that hard pan. Look at my foot. This dirt is what we're planting in, okay? There's no life to it. So, if we had the budget, this is the apple tree, one of the apple trees. If we had the budget, we would have rototilled, put down compost, put down peat moss, and revitalized the dirt. We don't have the budget. We're taking money out of grocery budget. These are the apple trees. Remember when I said it was going to lose branches for the weight? It lost a branch. Can you see that? I can't see my screen. It lost a branch for the weight because they're overproducing. Trees will overproduce, plants will overproduce in their last year. Like this branch right here, can you see the crack? And can you see the crack? Can you see how those two branches married together? Yeah, that branch has got to get cut out. There's wire embedded in this branch from somebody. This branch is cracked all the way through. This branch got trimmed last year. Okay, this is what this apple tree looks like. It's on its last legs. This apple tree, this branch here was completely hollow. We knew it, and it's the one that broke. Same as that other one that I just showed you the hole in. And it survived cracking a couple of times. Cracking is when it grows too fast from too much water and nutrients a lot of times. Anyway, this branch right here is pretty much 3/4 of the way to dead. So next year we probably won't have that much by way of apple trees, which is sad. We're going to plant baby apple trees. There's a gray jay feather of some form. See it? Two-toned. I'm not supposed to bend at the waist. Now let's get someplace where we have steady light. There we are. That's pretty. Anyway, we're going to get baby apple trees and plant baby apple trees. So, other changes. The callow, the taro that was growing in the front yard was not thriving. So I pulled all the weeds out of here. That's the sweet potato. It goes down there, trails off in a couple of different directions. That's the sweet potato. And then we put the callow in here because all of this two-toning was happening in the front yard. And since we put it in, it's making new leaves, so it's happier. That's the apples from the broken branch. The basil got harvested. Those beans are getting eaten. That's one asparagus bean. These are bush beans. See, I have a little bean. See, I have a little bean. You could plant bush beans today in most zones and still get a harvest before hard freeze. There's a flower for the asparagus bean. These are carrots that are, I was trying to make seeds, but they're not making seeds, they're just going away. So they're not viable. This is the husband's preferred tomato. This one's making a lot of flowers, that's from the branch over here. This one's finally starting to recuperate, and there, and this one's finally starting to recuperate. So my theory that it was getting too much water was correct. Onions, garlic. The little garlic cloves I planted never sprouted out. It's always 50-50 if they'll sprout out when you sprout out from commercial garlic, but it's worth trying. These are more bush beans. See, I have beans. Can you see the beans? I can't see my screen. Getting choked out by the peppermint. That's our horseradish. This is more of that mixed bean soup, and more proof that something is eating things because the stuff inside the cage is growing nice and big and lush, and the stuff outside the cage is barely surviving. And this is the Three Sisters garden that should be about 5 times as big. It really should, because this was planted a month before that. So that's that pepper I said wasn't thriving. It's still not thriving. I need to pull it. The tree farm. Oh, I forgot to show you the stick farm. The corn. So there's a whole bunch of YouTubers showing corn in a bucket this year, and I figured what the heck, I'd give it a try. I'm not seeing any evidence of ears, and I should have ears already. So I don't know if corn in a bucket is a good thing or not yet. We'll give it this season. They say to plant 6 to 10 seeds, plant it like a stand. The Brussels sprouts, I pinched the top one on this like I was told to, and it's actually trying to come back, and it barely is making buds. volunteer bean, marionberry, thyme, oregano. Trying to get some garlic seeds off these, but it doesn't look like they're making. I gotta get around here. I pinched the top off of this one and it's barely making. I did not pinch the top off of this one and it looks like it has spider mites in there. Can you see the webbing? Anyway, it's making Brussels sprouts. So we'll see. I usually don't grow cabbages because I'm allergic to, yeah, you just saw the mess. Because I'm allergic to cabbages. But hey, some of our roses, they're pretty. They're pretty. They're pretty. All of the roses have the fungus. So under advice, see, this is going to make a whole bunch more roses. That's my nightshade back there on the fence line. We're going to cut it almost to the ground and all of the roses and make them come back up because that might help us with the fungus. We'll see. What else? What else? This pot here is going to get that dirt there and every pot that didn't sprout or whatever. And I have some cabbages inside that are going to go into it. The chard's almost ready for harvest again. The ginger, the beans and the pepper that I doubt I'll get anything off of. The beans and the pepper I doubt I'll get anything off of. This volunteer bean has flowers. That volunteer bean, there's one more, that volunteer bean does not have flowers yet, but it's got a well-developed plant. I would not have thought that these pots were the right size for beans. But apparently for a bush bean, they're fine. And a volunteer bean. And a volunteer bean that didn't get buried. Now, all of the beans in the yard were planted at the same time, so why these ones are here so much younger, I don't know unless somebody's feeding the squirrel beans someplace else. That's possible. Okay, you're going to get to see some of my mess. This, oops, hold on before you focus on the mess. This is what's planted everywhere. So we've got kidney beans, large white beans, small white beans, calico beans, black beans, some little malformed little beans, and some lentils. I did not know there were lentils in there. I see that lentil. Okay, so that's what's planted in the various patches when I say mixed bean. And it's just planted for the sake of nitrogen in the soil. Okay, disregard the mess. My nose is runny. Starting with the silly melon, it's turning yellow, so it's not going to thrive. There it is. It's turning yellow. But the fact that it even tried means that these seeds are not sterile hybrid. They're just very, very infertile hybrid. These are those cabbages I showed you last week. They're at their second leaves, which means they need to be transplanted soon. So that bag of soil and all the random soil around the property, like this pot here didn't grow, so I can do that. That's a carrot, 2 carrots. That's the one chive out of the entire package of chives that sprouted. I found the package. Ow. This package of chives, 1 survived. It says it's grow by 1209. I can read. 1209. So it's a 10-year-old package of seeds, 1 grew. These chives here are from a package of garlic chives that are also 10 years old. I sprinkled them across the surface so you can see that, you know, probably 5 seeds per pot. So 2, 1, 2, and 1, and they're thriving much more than that one. This plant is 110 days old, 117 days old. These guys are probably 20 days old. That's the single stevia out of an entire package of stevia that grew. And it's 117 days old. And that's all it's done. It should be a bush by now. So when people talk about the age of seeds does make a difference. Anyway, these guys are going to get planted out. They have a 35 to 45 day from seed to harvest time frame. That's going to get pulled out. That's going to get pulled out because it has a bitter flavor now. This never grew, which tells me there's something wrong with that soil. So over here, it's not that one. These are my Chinese seeds. Everybody's on Facebook upset about Chinese seeds, and I'm buying them. Why? Because they're good seeds. Most Asian groceries have them. That's the large version. I planted the small version. That's what I planted. Okay. So it grows. Yeah. Okay. 40 days are needed to grow after planting. So we're on 10 days right now. When you transplant something, add another 5 days for transplant shock. Usually this is my seed set. These guys, we grew 2 of those and they were yummy. These guys bolted. Well, they're supposed to bolt because it's broccolini and you harvest it when the flowers come out. But they were really woody. Yeah, I'm just thinking, Anyway, this is my garden set. This is my dye stuff for dyeing fiber. That's all my lichen that I'm fermenting. I have a big jar right here of, this is a lichen ferment batch. That turned to brownish. Okay, it was purple, and I can probably bring it back to purple by shaking it daily and putting some vinegar in it. But if I can't, then I now know that it doesn't store that way. I can store it this way, and it's purple. It doesn't show purple on this because of the lighting, but it's a deep, dark purple. I dyed some fabric with it. It was really cool. I'm showing you my mess. I'm trying not to show you my mess. You know? Anyway, and that's the garage up to the rafters. What else? I think that's it. I'm gonna go have yet another cup of coffee, and I'm working on a sweater right now, and I'll show you that later, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.